Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei, and I'm so excited to paint with you again today. We are on day 6 of our watercolor journey, doing our best to paint every day, or as most days as we possibly can. Keeping it simple, no pressure, and just hopefully you are using some of these videos as inspiration to paint in your own journal, whether you're following along or just painting, using it to spark your inspiration to paint your own thing. So I'm going to work on some of the feedback from the earlier videos was making sure you can kind of see my whole setup. So I have been intentional about that. When I left things last night, I kind of set them up in a way and tested it, make sure you could see everything. So I didn't have to think about it this morning. So our last video, or last two, were flowers and carrots. We are going to continue with the vegetable theme. And if you haven't seen the last video, these are inspired by a possible upcoming commission I have for some different vegetables and other things you would find in a kitchen. We are going to do garlic today, and I love this subject. Garlic, the surface of garlic is super interesting. It's white as a general rule. There's lots of actual colors in garlic and different kinds of garlic. Some of them have a purplish hue to them. Some of them are more white and gray, but it can always be fun painting a white object, but a lot of people are very intimidated by it as well. So let's just draw some garlic, paint some garlic, and have a great little morning kind of figuring out this subject matter. So I do have a pencil here, and I'm just going to start to draw. Maybe I'll do just one clove or two. And I'm going to start on this side of my book, and I'm going to flip it over next time and do the other side. So paintings are probably going to go every other way. And that's just so I can get the whole setup in here. All right, so garlic. Garlic is a big... I need a darker pencil so you can actually see what I'm doing. This is my 8H, which is a super hard pencil, which is great for sketching stuff out for yourself if you don't want to see it. But since you are trying to kind of see what I'm doing, I'll use a darker pencil. So garlic is just a big rounded bottom kind of teardrop shape that comes to a top, comes to a point at the top. So almost like a big teardrop, a big fat one. But then it has lots of separating cloves that all come together. And they're all kind of similarly shaped, but they go around. And as you go around, you start to lose, you can't see the whole bit of the clove. And they might be slightly misshapen. It might not be perfectly rounded on the bottom. And then depending on your garlic, it could come to a little stalk at the top, or if that's broken off. Now, if I was painting this for a commission, and this is great advice for you when you're doing your sketchbook in the morning. If you're just sitting around and you don't know what to paint, just look around the room of wherever you are. I don't know where my kneaded eraser is, but look around the room of wherever you are and just pick something. Just pick something to draw and paint and kind of learn about. I'm giving my garlic some funky edges. This is not the best eraser. This is a great eraser for removing masking fluid, but it's the only one I have sitting near me right now. So that's okay. All right, sorry for the sniffles this morning. So there is a clump. There is a garlic, a clove. No, not a clove. Is the whole thing called a clove? Oh, I'm sure you all are going to tell me in the comments. No, the cloves are the individual pieces. A bulb, that's what it is, a bulb of garlic. Okay, I also have my micron pen. I might introduce this later. But that's neither here nor there. Let me see if I can find my kneaded eraser, because I do want to lighten these lines up a bit before I start to paint, because this is going to be such a subtle painting. Okay, we're back, and I found my kneaded eraser, one of them. We've lightened that up. Now I'm going to go in. I have a size 4 round brush, and I'm going to use some of what's called neutral tint. A lot of people use this to mix in, and I could have used Payne's Gray as well, but I'm going to use this color, and I think you should be able to see all of that, or most of my palette, or a lot of it. So neutral tint is just a very neutral gray color. I'm going to add a lot of water to it. And now my garlic, I'm going to start at the bottom where the most shadow or weight would be, and just put in, and then these subtle gray kind of shadows, and then where the sections meet each other is where we're going to add additional layering, but I'm going to leave a lot of it, or some of it. I want to make sure to leave at least some of it the white of the paper. Give the stem part a little color. And what ends up being for me, so that's layer one. The most interesting part as you paint this is the addition of layers, and how many layers and how detailed they can get. All right, so you can start to see it's taking some shape and some form. Now I could do all this same color and keep it very monochromatic, but I could also add in just going to add a little darker color, little tints of purple, lots of different varieties of garlic. I'm not going to be able to name them. Would have a purple hue to the bottom of them. And also a brownish, slightly warmer colors for some of the lines in the skin and things like that, and in the shadows. But something like this, what really makes them stand out is the contrast of the shadows, having some spots where there's really dark shadows, and where the cloves kind of meet on this is where those deep shadows would be. And a lot of this you're going to have to let things dry before you can kind of work on additional layers. So let's see what would happen if we take a little bit of this brown and add a little bit of the neutral tint to it, so it's just a slightly warmer brown. So even though there's subtle differences, so this is a warmer brown or a warmer gray, still kind of falling in the gray family, it just gives it another tone to the whole thing, and starts to make something that looks pretty dynamic and interesting. Little subtle variations can make a big difference. Put some of that right here. And when you're painting something white, remember you're painting the shadows, you're painting the textures and the grooves, but you're not painting the whole thing. You have to leave and preserve some of the white, or at least a very light version of a gray for it to be able to translate white. And this is a great sketchbook idea, because I would encourage you to paint several of them in your sketchbook and just kind of bop back and forth between them. And let's do that now. I'm going to draw another one over here that I can work on while I let this one dry and add other details. Maybe this one will add some color too. So again, I'm working with my really light pencil this time, so that way you could probably barely see it, but I can see it, and that way I don't have to bother with erasing. Sometimes there's a little bottom on it. It's almost like a little funky shaped pumpkin. But yeah, if you have a bulb of garlic like sitting in your kitchen, go plop it down on the table in front of you and, use it as inspiration. I do have some in my kitchen, but I am not going to go get it. I'm just going to paint these from my imagination. There we go. All right, let's work in some color to this one, I think. I'll put some of the darker color gray on the bottom, and then in just a moment, let's see, let's pick up, I have some dioxazine purple here, which is a super strong color, but I'm going to add a lot of purple. Or I'm going to add a lot of water to the purple, sorry. So some of you have left some really great suggestions for future videos already. I love that. So those will be incorporated shortly. I want this to be even more dramatic at the bottom, I think. So yeah, keep leaving those suggestions. I might not be able to do everyone, but it gives me great ideas. And thank you so much if you've contributed to that. So there we go. So now we have a purple one, and one with some browns in it. And then I am going to incorporate, you can just leave it like this, and I didn't do, let's see, anything at the top here, so I don't want to leave the stem completely white. But I do want to preserve some of these white spots in here. And once this dries, I am going to add, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do it in pen or paint. Adding some more detailed lines on. Maybe I'll do a little of both. So with this one, I'm just starting to add some stripy lines and texture over some of the white areas, not filling in the whole white area, just to see how that looks. And then I do need some contrast. I need a little bit. And it's always hard, especially when you're first learning, and remembering that when you put things down, they can feel really dramatic, and often they're going to dry a lot lighter than when you originally put them down. So that's hard that just takes time and practice and doing it over and over and getting used to like what happens after things dry. So all I can tell you is keep practicing for that, and it'll start to come to you exactly kind of how your paints behave. Sometimes you paint with a lot of water and it might, if it's beaded up on the page or you're having puddles on the page, it actually looks dark, but as it dries and all that water evaporates, there's not much pigment in there at all, and it's much lighter than when you painted it. So, that takes time, and that's okay. So this, I'm using some really dark neutral tint right at the bottom. And right in this little crevice here. And then I'm going to blend these out a little bit. I don't want them to stay as harsh lines. And the good thing about watercolor, if you're using pretty decent paper, which I'm finding this is actually starting to fall apart under my, even though I'm painting subtle colors, I've been doing a lot of scrubbing back and forth and lots of water. The paper is starting to deteriorate a little bit, but if you're working on good paper, you can add layers and layers and layers. So if it's too light the first go around, that's okay. Just do it again and again and again. And it's actually can offer lots of really subtle, beautiful qualities to it when you do multiple layers, rather than trying to get it all down in one initial layer. All right, I'm gonna leave those, let those dry, and then I have a micron pen here. This one is actually quite thick. Let me see if I have a thinner one. This is it's an 8. Let me see if I have a slightly smaller one. That one's gray. Oh, that might be interesting. This is a 5. That's gray, and this is a 3. So the lower the number, the thinner the pen is. Let me see what the gray looks like. It might be too subtle for some areas. And you do want to make sure, the gray is great. So I have this micron pen with a gray instead of harsh black. So it's perfect for this subject matter where you don't need a harsh line. But you can add in some of that kind of surface texture. You do want to make sure your garlic is completely dry. I'm avoiding this spot because I know it's still wet. So that's fun. Well, I hope this inspired you a bit, and I would definitely go back to this one and add some darker tones on the bottom. Those kind of dried really, really light. But I hope this inspired you. Go ahead and look around your kitchen. Food can be awesome to paint, even if you don't want to hang up food on your walls and it's not what you're going to aspire to paint as your final painting. There's a reason why a lot of introductory art classes, like real art classes at schools and colleges, not that other art classes aren't real, but very expensive art classes, I should say, at colleges and schools, start with fruit and still life objects because they offer a wide variety of colors and textures with simple or complex shapes depending on what you choose. And a lot of fruits have very simple shapes, like rounded oval shapes, and you can focus more on shading and detail of that and water control and all of those things, to really complex things, like some vegetables can be really complex, like broccoli, and other still life things, just things sitting around, because guess what? You put them in a place and they stay there and you can observe them and paint them forever. But it's real life. It's not from a picture, an image. You can actually work on translating 3-dimensional things into a two-dimensional landscape, but you can also look at pictures of things too. Oh, I love our little garlics. Aren't those fun? So this one is like a purple tint, and this one is all black and white with a tiny hint of a warmer gray in there. So much fun. Thank you so much for painting these with me today and kind of continuing on this watercolor journal journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with someone who might also need some inspiration for some daily art creation. And leave a comment. I love to hear from you all. I try to answer every single one when you do leave a comment. So thank you all. Happy painting, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.